on the CV-19 vaccination in I think the movie Plandemic, you said, and you told me this, they'll kill millions as they already have with their vaccines. There's no vaccine currently on the schedule for any RNA virus that works. And you said the same thing to me in our last conversation. This is what science says. There's two things they said. First of all, they said vaccines have not killed millions. They've saved millions of lives. Many vaccines that work against RNA viruses are on the market, including for influenza, measles, mumps, rubella, rabies, yellow fever, and Ebola. That's the first thing they have. They have a second thing, but let me get you to talk about the first thing.
The first thing is that vaccines, there's no data to show that vaccines save millions of lives. And in fact, there's a tremendous amount of data to associate the 21st century vaccine schedule with those diseases and deaths. As I said, $4 billion paid out in vaccine court for SIDS deaths, for flu vaccine deaths in the elderly from cardiac arrest, from many other things. And these data are, the vaccine court is, of course, corrupt. That's an entire chapter of my book, the evidence and the side effects of these vaccines. ITP kills millions of people every year. We firmly associated ITP with MMR vaccination and with XMRV infection in 30%. So we're clearly this is the big cover up from the society, from it to the society. And it's clear, as we were talking about the influenza vaccines driving COVID-19, that those papers are published, and many vaccines drive different pandemics. So the important thing about the cover up, the second question was, forgot what your second.
The second question, what was, there's many vaccines that work against RNA viruses that are on the market, including for influenza, measles, mumps. We talked about this last time. So what do you say to that?
Right. So RNA viral vaccines, MMR doesn't work. What do I mean when I say the measles vaccine doesn't work? It doesn't provide memory immune responses. And in fact, worse than that, the difference from a natural infection, where I had a natural infection well before the measles vaccine came out, because I'm older than that. It came out in 1963, and that's not MMR. So well before the measles vaccine came out, I had a natural infection, and we know I have lifelong immunity. What we see from MMR, from the measles vaccines right now, is that, in fact, the people who have been vaccinated are anergic, meaning not only do they not make memory immune responses, they don't produce antibody at all when re-challenged with measles. And you can see that in the recent outbreaks. It's the vaccine strains that are circulating and causing disease. The same thing's true of influenza. The CDC itself admits that the influenza vaccine doesn't work. So why do we eject people every single year? And they say, oh, we missed the strain. Well, if you've ever had influenza or you've ever had the vaccine, it targets the conserved epitope regions of the various strains, the conserved regions. And so those vaccines from strain A, strain B, why do we continue to give those every year along with a good healthy dose of mercury, which does cause death, cardiac arrest, and these neurological diseases like dementia, Alzheimer's disease, driving things. So no, they don't work. They don't provide memory. They don't provide lasting immunity like a natural measles infection. I've never had an influenza vaccine, and I've had the flu, and I never get sick. And so that's what the statements are made about. But of course, not a single study has been done since 1986 on the safety or efficacy of the vaccines of MMR, and those vaccines. The only vaccine that I would ever take is the rabies vaccine. So they mentioned that. And why do you take the rabies vaccine? In spite of the horrors, it causes a lot of problems and a lot of damage, because the disease is worse than the vaccine, and you've already been exposed. Why are we giving tetanus shots to 2 months old? Are we dropping them on rusty nails that have cow manure on them? How tetanus spreads? No, you don't need a tetanus shot. So, and that's not an RNA virus, but there's no memory. That's what I said. It's clear from the outbreaks there's no memory. And because they've never done a single test or a single experiment that shows they do work, they can't say they don't. That what I'm saying is not true. We don't have a test. Not in 30 years of anything on the schedule or the combination. What we do have is independent investigators that showed you how much garbage was in that MMR4 vaccine was in that MMR4 vaccine. If you'd like me to pull up a slide of exactly that vaccine.
Yeah, show me.
You can see the comments. Okay.
But while I have you on this topic, Judy, has there ever been a vaccine that worked in human history? That's what I want to know.
I think that the data support, that they don't, because that if so worked means. So, for instance, the flu vaccine is not intended to prevent infection. It doesn't develop neutralizing antibodies. It ameliorates disease. The polio vaccine is another RNA virus, enterovirus vaccine, and we haven't, natural polio was eradicated because of clean sanitation and other things, not necessarily the vaccine. Just like MMR, the disease incidence, the natural herd immunity was happening anyway, and yet we give the polio vaccine today, and it causes polio. The CDC renamed polio.
Okay, show me what's on this slide. Show me what's on the slide, and then we'll come back to your explanation. So what did you want to show here?
This is the contents of the MMR vaccine that an independent study showed. So there's independent analysis shows the content of endogenous retroviruses, horse anemia viruses, bird leukosis viruses, many retroviruses here, that the viruses are adventitious vaccine contaminants, potentially dangerous. And then you have human fetal DNA from the MRC, from aborted fetal tissues in that vaccines. So nobody can say that's safe or that's not driving disease, and you're going to make an immune response to these things. And it's crippling our immune system, and the clinical data support that it's allergic, that it's rendering allergic. That means the immune system simply can't respond, and you've lost your ability to respond.
Are we done with that slide? Can I get back to you? Okay, so that's what's in that MMR vaccine. And again, you know all these acronyms, but we don't all know them. But that's that measles vaccine is what that MMR is, right?
Right. Okay.
Now, just to finish on what you said about has a vaccine ever worked? And I know that's a very general question, but you were talking about polio and et cetera. What is that answer? That final answer then?
If we don't, why do we continue to give polio vaccinations?